Welcome to Second Edition. I'm Ryan Weisner.
And I'm Taylor Winnie Hughes. On today's Second Edition, we dive into an ongoing fight against 3 new bills centered around transgender youth.
We also have a forecast in next year's grocery prices.
But first, we go to NAIT campus for the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. NAIT staff and students gathered to remember the massacre of 14 female engineering students at École Polytechnique 35 years ago.
It's a community that no woman wants to be a part of.
On December 6, 1989, a gunman killed 14 female students in an act of gender-based violence that remains the deadliest school shooting in Canadian history. Now known as the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women, NAIT commemorated the 35th anniversary with a vigil, and 14 chairs left empty except for pictures and descriptions of the deceased students.
It's definitely a somber day today. You hear actions being taken across Canada, in America, everywhere around the world against women, and whenever I read it, whenever I hear it, it really hits home.
NAIT's president and CEO Laura Jo Gunter condemned the massacre before telling the crowd about This Matters, NAIT's newest initiative in ending gender-based violence. This campaign comes nearly a year after NAIT promised to address the issue. The United Nations says that 1 in 3 women worldwide will experience gender-based violence in their lifetime.
A small but vocal group gathered at the Alberta Legislature to voice frustration over 3 new bills passed into provincial law. The bills passed will restrict transgender youth options for seeking health care, name pronoun changes, and participating in gender sports. 2 LGBTQ plus advocacy groups are planning to challenge the healthcare bill centered in court, claiming it violates their Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
It's sad that we have to go to the courts to fight for our rights, but I'm glad that there are other avenues for our people to be able to defend the rights of all of us, because when we go and fight for our rights, we win for all.
As a lawyer, Arkan Paul says he supports the court challenge and he considers the passing of these bills to undermine the Albertan values of strong and free, seen in our coat of arms. He fears that these bills are just the start of more similar bills to come.
You can expect to spend a bit more on groceries in 2025.
I think it's a lot for an average guy.
According to the Food Price Report, the average 4-person household is expected to pay over $800 more annually in 2025 for groceries. That's an increase of up to 5% from last year. Climate change, political landscape, and current energy costs are leading factors to this increase.
I'm planning to study more and increase my pay. That's all I can think about, right?
That's about 400 or 500 bucks more than 2018. It's already getting a lot higher, and then another 800 per year, it's going to be messy.
The report shows that this past year, about 50% of people are seeking discounts in sales. A quarter are buying less non-essentials, and about the same number have decided to change their shopping habits and buy at cheaper stores.
The province recently announced changes to photo radar in Alberta. The City of Edmonton has concerns with these new plans.
We're disappointed in this move. We've had an industry-leading program here in Edmonton for a long time.
Starting April 1st, the province is reducing photo radar use by around 70%. Radar will only be allowed in school, playground, and construction zones. The city says this move will impact safety initiatives.
We have a special reserve where all of those funds go into, and they're held so that we can do engineering projects on our streets to help slow vehicles and make it safer for people to cross the street. It funds our automated enforcement program, and it funds all of our community outreach work.
The city says changes to photo radar will mean about $12 million less in annual revenue, money that would go towards safety initiatives like raised crosswalks, speed enforcement, and education programs. While they have funding in place until the end of 2026, it's not known how the loss of revenue will affect programs after that. And after the break, we talked to one of NAIT's culinary instructors as they prepare to take on the world stage.
But first, Katie Wallace has more on our top story.
Welcome back. We now return to our top story. Following the NAIT ceremony on December 6th for the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women.
Our Katie Wallace had a chance to sit down with the manager of NAIT's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to discuss the significance of this vigil and what it represents.
Hi, I'm Katie Wallace of Second Edition. I'm sitting down with Daly Lang, the one who organized the ceremony of the Act of Remembrance and Violence Against Women. Thank you so much for meeting with me. Why do you think it was important to have this ceremony, have this ritual, get this together at NAIT?
I think there's a lot of reasons, but the first one is that we are the Polytechnic School in Edmonton. And so where the Montreal Massacre happened is very similar to where we are. And we're a polytechnic that's led by a woman, which means something, right? Like I think sometimes we might take it for granted, but it absolutely means something. And so I think because NAIT has this deep commitment to ending gender-based violence, and we are a polytechnic that is like supporting the future of industry being diverse and having all those people, it's really important that we recognize things that have happened and the things we need to pay attention to, and that like this is the bad comments matter, and the extreme version of a bad comment unchecked is what we are unfortunately, commemorating lost lives. We need to address these days. We're not just focusing on where we're going and the positive, which is a big focus, but we also are realistic about what happens when we don't do this work.
Can you tell me a little bit about the symbolism that this vigil and ceremony represents?
We need to remember, and then we need to act, right? And so NAIT is committed to those actions, and this is a reflection of that we take this very seriously. These were people with futures, right? Like these were students, just like our students, who may be going in the world and making life fundamentally different, and they didn't get to do it, right? And NAIT does that. We train people to make the world different. And so, it just feels really important to acknowledge, we have to do this work. It is applicable especially to our students and to our commitment to who we want to be as a polytechnic.
What can we do to learn and end gender-based violence?
Here at NAIT, if you go to nait.ca/GBSV, there's a whole bunch of options. But I think one of the biggest pieces is start talking about it in your life. I think these are things that survivors don't talk about, and that when we destigmatize it, it makes it so much easier for folks to be honest, to be open, to access supports.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me. This was truly moving and impactful. Thank you for setting up the whole thing as well. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
I'm Katie Walls, second edition.
NAIT Culinary Arts is responsible for the restaurant Ernest's, the artisanal food market, Fresh Express, and the brand new One World.
That's right, and in 2026, they can add coach to their responsibilities. The NAIT Culinary Arts sends out 100 to 125 students each year into the culinary industry, led by 30 instructors, 3 of which have been selected to represent Team Canada in some prestigious cups. We sat down with Troy Limburger, one of those coaches, to talk about more. Troy, first off, congratulations on this achievement. I'm sure NAIT is super proud of you. What exactly does this mean for NAIT?
It's very, very prestigious. We are going to now be representing Canada on the international stage as the junior culinary team.
For the junior culinary team, do they need to be NAIT students?
Before, with the previous iteration of the NAIT culinary team, obviously, we would draw from the NAIT student body. So they were required to be NAIT students or former grads, representing NAIT. Now with this new iteration of the Junior Culinary Team Canada, it's really open to any young chef under the age of 25 from across Canada. Obviously they need to be able to cook, but really what we're looking for is a lot of the soft skills, teamwork, how they work, together.
Okay. And what opportunities can your team expect after this competition?
This opens up a number of opportunities, especially for the students who are, or the members who are on the team. Many of them are already working in industry. That brings some prestige to their operations that they're working at. It also opens doors for them to move up and get into different operations or different restaurants, for example. It really opens up their doors to travel. They can travel pretty much across Canada, around the world. They've proven themselves on the world stage, and that's really what employers are looking for.
Well, Troy, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations. We're going to be paying attention to your team. For Second Edition, I'm Ryan Weisner.
Up next, our Seth Shulak gives us some tips on picking the perfect board game.
But first, we go to Evelina Zanardi in the kitchen baking her all-time favorite carrot cake.
Hi, I'm Evelina Zanari for Nate's Second Edition. I'm here in the kitchen today about to bake one of my absolute favorite desserts of all time, carrot cake muffins. They're sweet, healthy, and perfect for the holiday season. We'll measure all the ingredients out to make 12 muffins. The total cooking time should be about 45 minutes, so it's not too long. Let's get started. We're gonna kick things off with the dry ingredients. Half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 teaspoons of baking soda, and to add a little holiday spice, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1 1/4 cup of flour. Now for a little something sweet, half a cup of white sugar and half a cup of brown sugar. 1 1/2 cups of carrots, and an optional ingredient, half a cup of your preferred chopped nuts. Moving on to our wet ingredients now, we have 2 tablespoons of milk and 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. 2 large eggs. And finally, we have 3/4 cup of olive oil. I've poured all of the dry ingredients, except for the walnuts and carrots, which we'll add in later, into this mixing bowl. Next, we'll pour in the wet ingredients. We are going to shred these carrots. We're gonna take our mixture with all of the ingredients, and we're gonna gently mix in all of the carrots and nuts to the rest of the batter. You can either use a spatula or spoon, or an electric mixer. Now we're gonna set the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. While we wait for that, we'll prepare our muffins for baking. They're gonna bake for about 17 to 20 minutes once they get in there. Time to take the muffins out of the oven. There we go. And here they are. Amazing. They turned out so good. Oh, hi, Gingy. These aren't gingerbread. They're carrot muffins. Really, really delicious stuff. Exactly. This is Evelina Zanari with Nate's Second Edition. Happy holidays, everybody.
Hi, my name is Seth Shulak of Second Edition. Are you struggling to find the perfect gift this holiday season? Well, I just got the perfect idea for you. Board games! Here are some of these board games that fulfill your need of strategy, mindfulness, and entertainment. The first game that I'll be talking about is a game called Dominion, a strategy-based deck building game. Here, as you can see, that we have a bunch of currency, copper, silver, and gold, and several estates that you can buy. You can play this game of up to 2 to 4 people. Another game that encourages mindfulness and cooperation is called Betrayal of House on the Hill. Betrayal of House on the Hill is like an episode of Scooby-Doo where you're sent to investigate a house and you get locked in and have to find a way out. The layout of the game may appear to be small at first, but once you get used to it, it'll become bigger and bigger as it goes on. Each room could have beneficial items, spooky events, or a deadly omen by the roll of the dice. And finally, last but not least, for our entertainment party game about bluffing your opponent, Balderdash. The object of the game is to make up a definition for not commonly used words to encourage your opponents to choose your definition. For example, the word scarpetti. You may say it's some kind of fancy pasta made by the Italians, but it really means hemp-soiled mountain climbing boots, something you would never think of at all. But hey, don't take my word for it. You can visit your local board game cafe and then try them for yourself. This has been Seth Shulak with Second Edition.
I honestly don't know what I like better, games or sweets?
Hey, why not both, right?
Fair enough. Thank you for watching Second Edition.
That's our last show of the season. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next year.